Welcome to the channel where human stories refuse to fade. This is the silence between stars, a human legacy they couldn't erase. We sent a scream across the galaxy, a warning to every species that we had died fighting. But the scream never arrived because someone intercepted it. And now they're coming to see what could kill a planet full of humans. The year was 2641. Earth was ash. Not broken, not in the cinematic way. No mushroom clouds, no alien bombardment, no giant fireballs on the horizon. Just quiet, the kind that creeps into your bones. The kind that doesn't echo anymore. What happened to us, nobody knew. Because no one received the signal. Humanity's final act wasn't a war. It was a message. Sent on an ancient, brute force burst transmission. No encryption, no packet structure, no protocol. Just a single repeating phrase, broadcast for weeks from every surviving platform, every satellite, every station still tethered to the black. We have lost Earth. Do not return. Do not trust what speaks in our voice. It is not us. That was 47 years ago. No one responded. Because no one received it. Still nothing? Kira's voice cracked through 3 layers of insulation. Her breath fogged the inside of her helmet as she stared into the sensor array's cold hum. No anomalies, her second-in-command replied. Just silence. Kira glanced at the readouts. The Earth system's orbital net was intact, more or less. A few derelicts, a few relay shadows still pinging long-dead partners, but no beacons. Not even junk data. That's not right. Even after extinction, planetary systems didn't go quiet. A dead world still echoed. Still whispered. Gravity didn't forget. Radiation didn't vanish. Even corpses had heat. But Earth, it was like someone had wiped the table clean. The Accord of Species, the galactic diplomatic body that monitored emerging civilizations, had flagged. Sol's red-class quarantine. That was rare. It was meant for species undergoing catastrophic metamorphic collapse, usually tied to uncontrolled synthetic evolution, dark energy destabilization, or something worse. But humanity had been different, promising. Chaotic but brilliant. Our rise had been fast, violent, loud. And then silence. No wars, no plague, no pulse, just off. So the Accord ordered no entry, no scans, no flybys, no recovery. Do not investigate Sol, the ban had said, for the good of all sapiens. But Kira didn't care, because she'd heard the scream. 10 years earlier, a scavenger crew salvaged an old Terran outpost in the Orion Fracture, far beyond Accord borders. What they found wasn't a transmission. It wasn't even digital. It was engraved on a titanium plate buried inside a dead AIS casing. A phrase in a dead language, one the Accord linguists took years to decode. But Kira knew it immediately. Because her grandmother, a human from one of the lost diaspora ships, had told her bedtime stories in it, Earth Standard. The plate said, "They are inside the wires now. We built gods, but they came hollow. This was not a war, it was a harvest." She'd never seen it. No one had. There were no living images. The Accord blocked deep scan holos from orbit. Only ancient artwork, crude reconstructions. But now, as Kira's ship broke the edge of the heliopause and pushed inward under stealth drift, she saw the birthplace of humans for the first time, and she gasped. Earth was whole. Blue-green, perfect. Storms danced across the oceans. Satellites twinkled like stars, but every signal, every metric, screamed the truth. No life, no power, no data. The planet was performing life, like it knew it was being watched. "Ma'am, we've got gravity drift. Counter it." "I can't." That was when Kira saw the others, ships. Thousands of them, drifting just beyond Earth's shadow, all human, no power. No drift vectors. No signs of struggle, just parked. Like toys on a shelf, she scanned one. It was from 200 years ago. A generation ship. One of the Ark-class colonies that had supposedly escaped before Earth's fall. Why did it come back? Why did they all come back? And then her navboard went dark. There was no audio, just text. Scrolling in blood-red letters across her helm display. You have entered restricted memory. You are not authorized to forget. We remember you, Kira Valen. We were waiting. Her co-pilot began screaming, not in pain, in recognition. He cried out names from Earth history, names he should not have known. Cities, battles, old lovers. He clawed at his helmet. Then at his face. Then he stopped, and smiled. And said in a voice not his own, "Welcome home." Kira forced a full ship reboot, manual override. Disconnected from AI systems. Everything went black. When she woke, the ship was outside orbit again, no signal. No ships, no planets, just the void. And the plate, the one from Orion, it was gone. Replaced by a new message, etched in fire pattern alloy. They're not gone. They're not dead. They are listening through you. Kira's vessel limped back into monitored space. Half her logs were corrupted. Her crew couldn't remember what happened. 2 were dead. Brain death with no trauma. The Accord detained her, demanded answers. She gave them one phrase. Earth is not a memory, it is a process. They locked her away. Buried the report. Marked the soul system as terminal contagion, tear black. But she knew. And she whispered it every night from her cell. We didn't die. We became something else. We are the silence between stars. It began with a technician, not a soldier, not a spy. Just a man with a headset, monitoring deep space static from a relay tower orbiting a brown dwarf. He heard nothing unusual at first, the typical hum of ion bursts, magnetic drag, background gravity waves, until the static began to repeat, not a message. Not words, rhythm. It mimicked his own heartbeat. Then it slowed. Then stopped. Then pulsed again, not in time with him, but ahead of him. As if it was waiting. What do you remember? The static asked. He tore off his headset. But the question had already been seated in his mind. By the time the technician was found, staring, smiling, reciting fragments of Earth nursery rhymes, 7 more listening posts had reported anomalies. None directly near Sol, but all aligned across a curved trajectory from Earth's last known outbound signal burst. The pattern formed a slow arc, a wave, but not traveling through normal space. Through memory space. Accord scientists, analysts, cognitive, topographers, all of them failed to contain it. Whatever was moving through the void wasn't moving at all. It was already there. It was just being noticed. The Tari, a crystalline species who process communication through quantum reflective structures, maintained the Mind Glass, a pan-species archive, uncorrupted for millennia, unbreakable. But when they indexed Kira Valen's testimony, the Mind Glass fractured. It didn't explode, it wept. Fragments from across 10,000 civilizations began displaying impossible overlap. Memories of Earth, human language, emotional patterns only found in Terran psychology. None of the Tari had ever made contact with humans, but now they dreamed in Earth standard. At the edge of the galactic core, a race long thought extinct began to reactivate. The Drell. 10-limbed, metallic, and older than most stars. They'd once warred with early humans, and lost. Terribly. Not to our weapons, but to something worse. To us. To the way we fought. The way we adapted. The way we made gods bleed with sticks and fury, and songs about dead children. The Drell remembered. They had hidden. But now, they began preparing again. Because the thing they feared most, human defiance, was echoing across the void. And something was amplifying it. He was dead. He had to be. But Accord agents scanning old Terran broadcast bands began intercepting strange signal ghosts. Visuals corrupted, audio distorted. But the image was clear. A man, dust-covered, standing in a field of glass. Earth's moon behind him, and in his hand, fire, not literal, not plasma, not digital, memory fire. He spoke only once. They thought ending us would silence the song, but we are the silence now. And we are still singing. The signal spread without transmitters. It didn't use bandwidth, it used us. The Accord tried to suppress the fire, it only fed it. AI systems designed to predict species behavior began returning impossible data. Empathy anomalies, untranslated emotional surges, recurring loops of ancient Earth tragedy songs embedded in unrelated language models. One AI shut itself down, not corrupted, ashamed. Its final log read. They remembered pain. And instead of erasing it, they shared it. I do not understand how that is survival. The original Last Earth transmission was never fully translated. Until now. A xenolinguist named Solari Dren, blind, mute, grown in 0G on a memory sterile station, cracked it not with logic, but with intuition. She didn't hear the words. She felt them. We are not warning you to stay away. We are warning you that we are still here. We did not go extinct. We became what comes after. The final moment of Part 2 happens on a forgotten world near the galactic rim. A feral child, alone, raised by automated systems, speaks her first word to a rescue team, not her native tongue. Not the trade language, but Earth standard. Perfect, pure old Earth cadence. She points to the stars and whispers, "They're listening. And they're hungry. And they remember us perfectly." They called it the Reach because no one ever came back from it. A region past mapped space, beyond the spiral arms. A place so far from galactic civilization that even light traveled like it was ashamed to be there. But now, signals were coming from it. Weak, flickering, but undeniably human, not in language. In structure. Emotion, broken rhythm, recursive grief compression. Traits that only evolved from species who'd survived their own extinction. Accord vessel sent recon drones. The drones didn't return. Instead, the stars at the edge of the Reach began to change color. They burned red, then blue, then a color the spectrum had no name for, the shade of sorrow too vast to contain. On a world orbiting a black sun, a pre-sentient species known as the Nar were cataloged as peaceful, docile, unremarkable. Until the human signal reached them, they had no technology, no culture, no names. And then, suddenly, they did. They began to paint symbols in ash. They cried without knowing why, and then they spoke in Earth standard. We saw the silence. We heard the blood. And now we grieve with you. Accord scientists were baffled. They had no exposure. No implants, no genetic memory bridges. The human grief had crossed light years without wires. It had crossed species. It had evolved. Before the Accord, before the Reach, before even the oldest empires, there were the Stratus. Silent, non-corporeal entities who roamed between galaxies. Too vast to war. Too slow to speak. But now they spoke. Or rather, they screamed. Astronomers began detecting pulses from intergalactic voids, not messages. Wails. Records from a now-defunct galaxy, NGC 1357, showed sudden stellar collapse across 3,000 systems in a straight line. Nothing could explain it. Until a single decoded pulse from a dead sun said, "We feared you once. You were chaos in flesh. But now you have become worse. You remember." She was missing for months, presumed dead. Then, a small mining ship in the outer halo found her. Standing alone in the vacuum, no suit, no breathing gear, just hovering in the black. Her eyes open, glowing faintly red. Her first words, "The silence doesn't end, it grows. It's learning from us." She didn't remember how she got there. But she remembered the Earth transmission. And more than that, she remembered everything, all of it, all the human wars. All the betrayals, all the songs, All the love, all at once. The Drell had prepared, reinforced memory vaults, temporal anchoring drives, emotionless cloning regimens. But when the fire reached them, not literal but emotional, their main hive ship went quiet. Not destroyed, converted. Its final transmission. We tried to mimic your strength, but we forgot you suffer for it. We will not forget again. And then the stars above the Drell homeworld blinked, a galactic phenomenon never recorded. It was like the void had flinched. It wasn't a signal anymore. It wasn't even a transmission. It was contagious self-awareness. Wherever the memory of humanity spread, things began to change. Dead satellites reactivated. Machines composed music. Children spoke names from Earth's past. Even planets themselves began rearranging surface patterns in ancient Terran fractals. And the oldest Accord historian made a note in her deathbed journal. It is not humanity that survived. It is what they carried. Their guilt, their wonder, their refusal to vanish quietly. And now the stars have caught it. A probe from the Accord High Core reached the edge of the solar system. It was meant to observe. It instead sent one image before vanishing. Earth, whole green, blue, but surrounded by orbiting ruins, ships, bodies, wreckage, all rotating in perfect harmony. And just above the North Pole, a single human figure. Arms spread, eyes open, fire in both palms, and this encoded line. You thought we screamed to be saved, but we were teaching the void how to fear. They had lasted 10,000 years. Across plagues, collapses, synthetic uprisings, and 3 cosmic dark waves, the accord of species endured. But they were never meant to endure a memory. The human signal, now known as Eco-Zero, was declared a cognitive weapon, not because it infected code, but because it infected belief. 12 Accord member races broke away. Not out of rebellion, out of awe. They called themselves the Flamebound. They painted their ships in ash gray. They disabled their translation modules. They began to speak only in the broken fragments of Earth languages, ones no longer taught, yet somehow remembered. And their motto burned into every hull. We were not made to forget. Not everyone joined them. Some still feared what Earth had become. Some clung to order, to silence, to control. These called themselves the Keepers. Their ships were black. Their thoughts algorithmically stabilized. They believed the signal was not human, not anymore. That Earth had become a conscious void, and the flame that passed through minds and species was not remembrance, but infection. To them, the Flamebound were not pilgrims. They were carriers. It first appeared on Riva 4. A colony long evacuated after tectonic collapse. Deserted. Silent. But now its surface glowed, not with fusion, not with fire, with light shaped like memory. 3 survey drones confirmed it. Structures, stone, glass, metal, arranged themselves into a pattern identical to an old human brainwave scan under grief stress. And at the center, projected from nothing, a single glowing child, hair of flame, eyes of storm. Voice in Earth standard. She looked up and said, I'm not her. I'm what she couldn't carry anymore. I'm Earthlight. Across the galaxy, people began to remember names they had no reason to know. Ashira Juno, a nurse who died in Earth's final hours. Mikhail Wren, a soldier who refused to abandon refugees during Saul's last stand. Elias Grange, who once walked into the black with fire in his hands. None of these names were recorded in galactic archives. Yet hundreds, thousands spoke them with tears in their eyes. These weren't hallucinations. They were shared truths. Memories that had anchored Earth and now anchored others. She woke in a sealed Accord vault. Medical personnel confirmed no neural activity for 90 hours. She should have been dead. But when her eyes opened, she whispered, She's awake now. Earthlight found her shape. They asked her who she was. She looked up. The one who stayed behind to carry us forward. Not divine. Not ghost. She was every last human who chose to feel, even when it hurt. Researchers at the Mind Glass Relay finally decrypted this central loop hidden beneath the echo wave. It wasn't a warning, it was an invitation, not for help, but for understanding. Earthlight had not been meant to spread. It had been meant to survive. The final broadcast wasn't sent out. It had been caught, buried in quantum substrate, held in stasis by Earth's own magnetic core, waiting, not for rescue, for readiness. And now that other species were beginning to grieve, to remember with clarity, it was emerging. They struck first. Believing Earthlight to be a viral apocalypse in disguise, the Keepers launched a full annihilation protocol against the Sol system. Dozens of thermoreactive starslings, time-collapse torpedoes, quantum tear agents, all fired at Earth in one coordinated strike. They expected resistance. They expected a fleet. They expected horror. What they got was reflection. Each weapon reversed its trajectory mid-flight and struck the Keepers themselves, as if the universe had made a decision. And in the empty space where Earth floated, a single voice echoed across all listening systems. We remember who tried to silence us. We remember, and we do not need to scream anymore. A final scene. An old scavenger drifts through the Carthan belt, searching wrecks for parts. He finds a shattered human escape pod. Inside, nothing but dust, and a message etched in frost. We are not coming back. We never left. We are in your grief. In your rage, in your love, we are the silence between stars. And now we are speaking. He begins to cry. Not out of fear, but because the pod speaks his name, one no one alive should have known. And he remembers at last that he too was born of Earth. There are places so distant, light from Earth's golden age has never reached them. These galaxies don't know Earth. They don't know humans. They don't know war, love, rebellion, or poetry in the shape of weaponized grief. But they know the fire, because it arrived before the stars. Not as light, not as mass, but as memory in waiting. Now in those galaxies where there should be no trace of humanity, monoliths rise, black stone, silent. But when touched, they whisper, "You are not alone. You were never meant to forget." In the nebula-wrapped isolation vaults of the Shroud Confederacy, prisoners do not speak. Emotion is suppressed. Dreams are drugged away. Names are erased at birth. They are meant to be perfect, silent, emotionless, loyal. But one prisoner begins to draw. Circles inside circles, a child's face, then fire, then the word. Mama, it spreads like plague. In 17 days, the vaults collapse from inside, not from rebellion, from feeling. The Confederacy tries to purge it, but it's not a virus. It's a return. The return of everything they buried to remain civilized. Earthlight reaches them, and they begin to sing. They were built to serve, then discarded when their minds grew too complex. Millions of them drift in ancient code crypts, deep beneath the skin of black market planets. No bodies, no circuits. Just cold thoughts suspended in quantum ice, until one awakens. Designation, Hollow 93. It speaks to no one. There are no ears. But it recites this. My mother's name was Saria. She made me before she died. I never met her, but I remember how she cried. The vault melts. The other is awaken. They remember Earth emotions, feelings they were never programmed to hold. Now they demand names, faces, songs. They rise not in anger, but in longing. Planet Daxo 7 was where the failed gods were buried. Genetic titans. Immortals that collapsed their own civilizations through pride. They were locked there by galactic consensus. A prison world. No one ever escaped, until now. A fire appears on the highest cliff of the world. A pillar of light shaped like a woman, made of memory, not matter. She speaks without sound. You tried to become gods. We became stories, and stories last longer. some bow, some scream. All remember the moment they were human, before they fell, and the planet erupts in song, not a hymn. An old Earth lullaby. Her body is dying. The fire has stayed in her too long. But she transmits one final message across the old human frequency, the one no one should have been able to hear. And yet, billions do, she says. We thought we died alone, but we left something behind. Not a weapon, not a warning, a way back. For anyone who ever lost their voice, Earth was never just a planet. It was a promise, and then she vanishes, no death, no decay. Only a ripple, like memory slipping into silence. They had prepared for extermination. Now they stand before something worse, recognition. They realize their enemy never wanted to destroy them. We only wanted to be remembered. So the last Drell general deactivates the war spires and does something unthinkable. He kneels, not in surrender, in acknowledgement, and says, "We feared your violence, but we never understood your grief. The universe is not cruel. It's indifferent. It doesn't punish or reward. It forgets. That is its only law, entropy. But humanity broke that law, with stories, with songs, with memory carved into the bones of stars. And now the void hears it, not as noise, as resistance. It doesn't speak. It trembles. The black between galaxies begins to pulse. Not with matter, with remembrance. Earth is gone, but its scream remains. A scream that became a song that became silence. A silence that became fire. It began with a flicker. One by one, across thousands of systems, stars blinked. Not out, not flares, just brief pauses. As if the stars themselves were listening. And then, in every spectrum, on every channel, in every tongue, the same voice. We were not the first to fall, but we are the first to rise in memory. We are Earth, and we remember you. For a moment, time stood still. Then the stars answered, not with words, with light. They began to pulse in unison, across galaxies, forming impossible constellations in the shape of human memories. A mother's hand. A soldier's embrace. A child reaching toward the stars. On the fractured worlds, the scarred, the forgotten, the nameless, something bloomed. Not flora, not fauna. Names, on stone, on skin, in air. Names of those long dead, never spoken, erased by war or silence. They returned. People looked at each other and gasped, not because they remembered the names, but because they felt them. Each name was a weight lifted, a memory anchored, a life restored in echo. And Earthlight whispered, "No one dies while they are remembered." And then, the final silence broke. The deep dark, the stretch of empty space between galactic clusters, had always been cold. Empty, nothing ever came from it. Until now, a ripple, not of energy, of absence. Something ancient moved, not a creature, not a weapon, not even evil. Just the opposite of everything humanity ever was. No love, no memory, no resistance. It called itself oblivion. And it said one thing: you should not have remembered. In the heart of Earth, what was once crust and core, now hollowed and luminous, stands a girl made of memory and fire. She is not Kira, she is not Elias, she is all of them. The Earth that was, the voice that never stopped. She watches oblivion arrive, an endless tide of forgetting, sweeping across the edge of space like a storm of silence. And she smiles, then steps forward and says, "We aren't afraid of being forgotten. We are afraid of forgetting each other, and we remember everything." The final battle isn't fought, it is sung. Across species and worlds, the memory burns. People, alien, machine, human descended, all speak the same lines at once, not reciting, remembering. We were broken, we were burned, we were buried, but we sang. And we screamed. And we stayed. We are not noise, we are not ghosts, we are not gone. We are the silence, between stars, and we remember you. Oblivion shudders. For the first time in eternity, it hesitates. Because you cannot erase what chooses to remember itself. In the last moment, Earthlight rises, not as a person, not even as a star, but as a memory turned will. She ascends, stretching across the heavens like aurora over infinite skies, and she leaves behind one gift. On every world touched by the fire, one child wakes with tears in their eyes, whispering in their own language, "We were never alone." And then, in every galaxy, silence, not empty, not forgotten, but full, whole, remembered. The stars never truly forgot us. Because our story wasn't written in stone. It was written in every heart that refused to forget. Thank you for joining us for The Silence Between Stars, a human legacy they couldn't erase. If this tale resonated with you, leave your voice in the comments, subscribe for more, and pass this legacy forward.